Good afternoon. I'm NASA Senior Advisor and Press Secretary Bethany Stevens. Thank you for joining us from NASA HQ for our second monthly Moonbase update. Today, we will discuss the latest progress toward establishing America's and humanity's first outpost on the lunar surface. I'm joined today by NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman and Moonbase Program Manager Carlos Galan Garcia. Thanks to both of you for being here today. Jared, the past 3 months since the ignition event have been an exciting period for NASA, with the agency's focus now on building a permanent outpost on the lunar surface near the South Pole. What are some of the highlights?
Well, we've certainly been very busy. I mean, if you recall, ignition was just before the Artemis II mission launch. So let's start there. I don't think any of us are quite over what an extraordinary mission that was. So we launched Artemis II April 1st, sent them around the moon, brought them back safely to Earth, got a lot of great data, some great lunar science out of it. And it wasn't just weeks after we brought them back and had their kind of splashdown event at Johnson Space Center that we brought everybody back and announced the Artemis III crew. And we're not slowing down there. We've already given the go for stacking, so we're getting ready to start assembling the Artemis III hardware with the goal of getting it outside and getting into wet dress before the end of the year. And we're making progress on Artemis IV hardware as well. I mean, we are parallel tracking to the greatest extent possible, and we have teams that have been going out in the field to meet vendors all across the supply chain and driving outcomes. In fact, just yesterday, I was with Administrator Kelly Loeffler from the SBA administration, talking to her about how we are going to partner and take some of the pressure points out of the supply chain, whether it's valves, hypergol thrusters would be very applicable for the moon base, are slowing down progress, and working with some of the great small businesses from across America to start producing these and be able to provide them some of the capital to get going with that Small Business Administration initiative. So just some examples there. We're making a lot of progress. Might turn over to our moon base guy. What more specifics do you have?
So there's a lot of stuff going on. I'm going to focus on the first 3 missions that are in a pretty advanced state of development. I'll start with Blue Origin. They're developing the Endurance lander. It's the first version of their Mark I lander. And I have actually already seen Endurance at the Johnson Space Center when he was doing some of the environmental testing, and it looks like it's almost done. I think the assembly is pretty much complete. They'll get through a next set of tests, then they'll put the engine, load the cryos, and he's ready to go. Of course, the launch vehicle for that is the New Glenn, which had an anomaly recently. So we're working with Blue Origin very closely to understand their timelines to recovery, and also looking at other options in case it doesn't meet our timeline. So we're paying a lot of attention, putting the entire NASA capability at the service of making this vendor successful. So the second one is Astrobotic Griffin 1 mission. It's been built out in Pittsburgh. I was also there recently with Bunny Suterall, looking at all the aspects of that lander, and it's looking great. Also almost ready for complete assembly. What they're going to do now, I think they're almost ready to put it in a box, send it to JPL, will undergo environmental testing, and then it'll get back to Pittsburgh, put the engine on, and then go to KSC, where it will meet very exciting payload, the Flip rover that Astrolab is developing in the LA area. And then that one also will be ready to go, expected to launch this year. And then Intuitive Machines in Houston, Texas. They're building the Nova C lander. That also is looking pretty good. They just finished putting the top deck of it with propellant tanks and all of that stuff. They're also doing engine testing. Actually, when I was there, I got to witness some of that engine testing. Always exciting there. So great progress. Actually, being able to see moon-based elements getting to the finish line is just awesome. So that is what's going on.
So, Carlos, those are the first moon-based missions, but you and Jared have outlined that we can expect to see 20-plus missions in Phase 1 of building the moon base, which extends through 2029. Can you quickly recap for everyone what we're hoping to accomplish in Phase 1 and then subsequently in Phases 2 and 3?
Absolutely. So Phase 1 is really 3 main objectives. 1, getting to the moon reliably. That's why we have so many missions, because we want to try with different vendors, different places of the moon, and make sure that all of the missions have a very high likelihood of success. The second objective is to get ground truth. We know a lot about the moon, some of the South Pole, but nothing like what we need to learn before we send humans there and we actually build a moon base. So putting different assets on the surface, prospecting, understanding the environment, the places where we want to go, super critical. And the third objective is we know to build a moon base, we're going to need permanent infrastructure. And we're going to need to support long duration, eventually permanent presence there. So we're going to try out some of these technologies early in phase one that will enable us to do that. We want to try things out there, learn from what we observe in the operations, and then modify and upgrade the things that actually will be part of phase two, which starts around 2029. And that's when we'll start putting some of the permanent pieces of the infrastructure, including power, navigation capabilities, of course, finishing out the communication constellations, and also surface preparation. All of that in phase two. And then that will go through 32, and in 32 plus, we'll add the final elements of the moon base initial capability, which will enable long-term duration missions, including habitation, the logistics, and we'll see some cargo return to Earth.
Is there anything you'd like to add?
Well, I guess reinforcing the importance of going through these phases. This is drawing on the playbook that worked very well for NASA during the 1960s. We didn't just jump right to Apollo 11, Mercury, Gemini, lots of Apollo missions. We want to get back into a rhythm of this. We want lots of reps. It's incredibly challenging just going to the moon, let alone going to the south pole of the moon and being able to operate in permanently shaded regions. Like, this is extremely difficult. So let's do a lot of littles, and let's learn from every one of them. And I'll tell you, as you tune in and you start watching these robotic uncrewed landings, starting in 2027, every single time, not only is that a useful mission for the long-term goals of building out a moon base itself, it's bringing down risk for when the astronauts arrive. Every landing, we're going to have an opportunity to learn from. So I think it's exciting. I think it gives people a lot of opportunity to tune in, see the progress that we are making. There will be scientific breakthroughs from every one of them. There will be tech demonstrations, but we're learning and building up to doing something extremely hard, which is being able to operate astronaut crews on a near continuous basis on the lunar surface. And this is drawing on the playbook of success from the 1960s. We're bringing it back. This is how you do the near impossible. Just eager to see the first mission get underway.
So now that we've recapped all of that, let's shift to our 4 new vendor contracts being awarded to industry providers today. Jared, do you want to go ahead and share who's going to be delivering NASA science payloads and tech demos?
Sure. We've got 4 landers, 3 vendors. So the first one, 2 awards are going to Astrobotic. The second, we have an award going to Firefly Aerospace, which is their Blue Ghost lander. And then third, we have Intuitive Machines, which is based on their Nova C lander. And I will turn it over to our Moonbase guy to give you the specifics.
All right, so congratulations to Astrobotic, Firefly, Intuitive Machines. It's been awesome to see them grow, just like other parts of the industry that we're going to need for the Moonbase. With Astrobotic, like the administrator said, it's another version of their Peregrine lander. They're getting 2 awards, and we have been ensuring that they have the production capacity for that, same time as they're building out, finishing their Griffith 1 lander. So they're applying a lot of the lessons learned from the previous Peregrine build-out, and we expect to see a spacecraft that has those additional capabilities. Then Firefly, of course, we were all captivated by the footage of the Blue Ghost approaching the moon and landing to the moon. That was an epic mission. We got a ton of data from that, so we are thrilled to see them develop another instance of that Blue Ghost lander and see it carry some of our payloads to the moon. And then, of course, Intuitive Machines. I have seen already one version of the Nova C. Very excited to get another one. Again, we will apply all the lessons learned. As a matter of fact, they're doing quite a bit of work in the instruments for descent and guidance and navigation. They're going to apply all of the stuff they learned from the testing they do on Earth, as well as the next mission, into this instance. And very excited that we're going to get a bunch of new payload capacity to the surface.
Speaking of payload capacity, what do you think the chances are here, if America wins it all, that we can find some volume here on one of these landers to put one of the soccer balls in?
If the United States wins the World Cup, we will absolutely find space.
You're going to find a way.
Of course, they will have to beat Spain in the quarterfinals, which is predictable, but we will see what happens. But absolutely, we will absolutely.
Right, so a little bit of motivation for the United States here on this one. We're going to one-up Alan Shepard in the golf game on the lunar surface. We're going to get the soccer ball there. I don't know which lander it'll wind up going, and I'll leave that to you guys to handle the payload integration.
We will take on that challenge. It will be super exciting to do that if they win. Good luck.
Carlos, you've been deeply involved in shaping the near-term roadmap for our moon-based construction zone. What's on the horizon for the moon-based program?
Besides getting new awards for the landers, we're working across NASA. This is a one NASA effort. We're working with our science partners on making sure that we understand what the objectives for science are, picking some of the instruments and developing those with them, and also working with research and technology team. They just announced in a press release yesterday, they're putting a broad area announcement for some of the early technology that we know we have gaps on, and therefore folks to apply and put their ideas in sam.gov right now. Those, again, will be early technology development projects that all feed into potential flight projects for things that we do in phase 1 and phase 2 in the future. So that's number one. We're then, of course, going into some of the moon-based core activities. We announced CLPS 2.0. That's another version of landers and also other options that we have to be able to procure not just as commercial service, but only specifically landers. We want to get into the business where we have launch vehicles, different kinds of landers, and we're developing payloads for them, and we will be assembling these missions depending on what's ready. Those awards, due date for that was actually today, and we'll be making those awards in early September or so. Then, when we talk about the things that we have in procurement, definitely launch vehicles for the landers themselves, and in phase 1, technology demonstrations. So we're going to open up a new solicitation avenue for those technology demonstrations. And we're going to start focusing on surface power, but there's more. There's early habitation, there's surface mobility. So in a month or two, we're going to put that broad area announcement, core for Moonbase, out, and we'll be soliciting for ideas and proposals on, again, start with surface power right away in July, and then expanding that to other areas. And then, because we're procuring those technology demonstration payloads, we need more landers. So we already have booked the 3 ones that I talked about at the beginning. We just awarded 4 today. We can't wait to put great payloads on those and also learn things about getting back to the moon, core objective for phase 1. But then we're going to get in the business of deploying these technology demonstration payloads. Maybe a solar tower, maybe an inflatable habitation, things like that we get through the broad area announcement. So more landers in the horizon for power, avionics, and habitation. So that kind of wraps up what's in the core.
I think you might have a little bit more about what's next.
Well, you know, when I was saying early on that we are going to launch, we're going to have so many landers, we're going to have so many rovers, we're going to be on the moon that you could go and raid the pantry at every one of our centers for payloads, and there would still be a lot of excess mass and volume available in that. Well, we started to do just that. And it turns out we do have a lot of flight hardware that's around our various centers. So a little bit of a Star Wars reference here. I think those that know our Mars rovers, Curiosity and Perseverance. Well, there is another. The engineering development unit for it is called Promise. And I'd say we are thinking very hard right now about sending Promise to the moon.
That would be an awesome capability. First of all, core moon-based objectives. You know, having a nuclear RTG on it, it allows us to go anywhere we want, regardless of the illumination. Surviving the lunar night is going to be one of the bigger challenges. With this capability, we wouldn't have to worry about that. So long traverses, getting into those very hard-to-reach areas, just like Curiosity and Perseverance have shown us on the surface of Mars. That would be awesome. But then we have payload capacity, significant on this thing. So we're going to work with our partners in the Science Mission Directorate to find the best payloads we can have, put them on this rover, and get groundbreaking science out of it. So we're very excited about this possibility, which we're still studying, but are in the business of the near impossible, so why not?